you then came out and you've just subsequently written an open letter to the president. You suggested that the president has a closed-door style of leadership, is indifferent to complaints about ethnic bias in appointments, and frequently runs the country from abroad whilst attending to personal matters. And you say that he's become something of an isolated leader heading an insular administration. I mean, that sounds pretty strong.
Oh, you quoted a part of the letter that I wrote to him. I used the language very carefully. Said it was insular, isolated. That's not a lazy, the words you use casually. The president really is genuinely isolated. Whether it's by choice or by circumstances we don't understand, the bottom line is he ought to be available to a lot more of the people that he has trusted, either to run ministries or departments or to advise him. And he isn't. And that's a problem for the country, not so much for him, but it's a lot, because the president of Nigeria is a hugely powerful person, and he has massive responsibility on his shoulders. And there are other issues that I raised in my letter. I said somehow I just think when I use the word insular, it really was about, when you hear people close to him speak about Nigeria, it's as if we live in two different worlds. And that is the most frustrating thing for me. We would leave the villa, we would go home, we would watch real people, and sometimes we would drive around, we go home, we mix with poor people. We knew how desperate the country is, how desperately life is, difficult life is, the insecurity level, how high it is. People are losing hope, asking what is the value of this democracy. And sometimes they say, what are you doing there? We thought with people like you, we wouldn't be seeing some of these things. At least, are you guys really advising the president about some of these things? And it all amounts to this idea that the president is either not interested in getting advice, or is getting advice from the people that he hasn't appointed officially to give him advice.
And did you find some elements of good leadership in President Tinubu? Was he at some level a progressive leader, as many who knew him when he was governor of Lagos State seem to think?
My definition of a good leader would be a leader who has real vision, not just to become president, but to use that presidency to fundamentally change those things that needed to be changed. Some of them very difficult, and sustain that change, lay the foundations of that change beyond the time that you are in power. So the power is not just an end in itself. It's about changing lives. That's my vision of a good president. I saw a man who labored really hard, worked very, very hard to become a president, who started on his first day by saying, get ready everybody, put your belts on. We're in for some turbulence, but in the end, you all thank me. And then nothing. We went back to normal.
So it was an anticlimax, basically.
It's an anticlimax which we shouldn't have at a time of such time. In the economic management, in managing security, in managing national coexistence. I didn't see the kind of change that we required by 2023 after President Buhari left this country wrecked completely. Yes. But he then creates an environment that makes it doable. Then he engages Nigerians. He doesn't just send out press releases. He has an engagement strategy. He talks to the people. We need to give young people hope. We need to let them know that this country actually is theirs, and that they can live in a country that is safe, in a country that progresses, a country that will give them some hope that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We are not doing that. That's why I'm hoping that people will rise against the political class now. We need change, and it can happen. We did this in 2020. We don't have all the time to go back, but maybe some other time. But in 2020, 2012, 2013, 2014, when a lot of Nigerians thought it wasn't possible, I'm proud to say I was part of the team that did it. We showed it was possible to defeat an incumbent government. We showed it was possible to actually remove a government that was incompetent, that allowed Boko Haram to mess us up, that had allowed corruption to run away with everything. And we put Buhari, we thought Buhari was going to be the Messiah. We were wrong. But at least it was done. We can't change this country, and we need to take that lesson.
If there's one lesson we have learned from what Hakeem Baba-Ahmed here said, is that as a people, we need to rise up against our political elite, politically speaking, and vote them out in 2027. If there's one lesson we've learned, is that our politicians are together, even though they're separate in different political parties, but they look out for themselves. If there's one lesson we learned, is the fact that the direction Nigeria is going is not forward. If after the wreck that Muhammadu Buhari did to Nigeria, the expectation from even those from within APC is that Bola Tinubu will come in and fix Nigeria, but Nigeria has gotten worse. And you have to understand that the only salvation left for Nigeria is for Nigerians themselves to look inward for the solution. And that solution is galvanizing each other, sensitizing each other, making sure that we make this conversation so loud that we can tell everybody, time for you to get out and make your voice count. It was done in 2015. It can be done again. Remember when PDP bragged about it, that they will be in power for generations until they were removed. The greatest force ever is the force of the people. Politicians don't want it. That's why you can see them defecting, because they're looking out for themselves, not for the people. Another question is, who is advising Bola Tinubu? Hakeem here says that he described the president as an insular and also isolated. What that technically means in essence is that he's an island. Politically speaking, he's an island and also is isolated. So when he's isolated, what is he isolated from? Is it for health reasons? This is the same man that said Bola Tinubu obviously travels abroad to and governs Nigeria from abroad. The same thing that Buhari did several times. So what we have is a continuum of whatever Buhari did. That's what Bola Tinubu was continuing from. And he said, and I said to Nigeria, I will continue from wherever wherever Buhari stopped. So Bola Tinubu told Nigerians, he said, I will do and I will continue from wherever Buhari stopped. So when you're getting a confirmation of whatever Buhari had done as a continuation by Bola Tinubu, don't be shocked. He'd already told you guys. He already told Nigerians. Corruption was rife under Buhari. Corruption is even mega under Bola Tinubu. Insecurity under Buhari. Right now, we can't even control the nation anymore. There's insecurity in every nook and cranny of the nation. If you turn to the left, there's insecurity. To the right, there's insecurity. You cannot travel within the southern region and not be afraid to be kidnapped. You cannot do that within the northern region and not be afraid to be kidnapped. You cannot even travel between the north and the south and don't expect that something terrible will happen. Corruption is rife. Our government is borrowing money for something they cannot give account of. Intangible projects that have no bearings. Even the ones they're doing right now, take the Lagos-Calabar Express motorway they're doing. The bidding process didn't go through the right process. It was just given to one particular person, and that was it. When there's a disrespect and disregard for the rule of law and processes, what you have is going to be an autocratic leader. And what you've had now so far in Nigeria is exactly what it is, an autocratic leader. If I ask you, are you better off today than you were yesterday under this particular government? The cost of goods and commodities are at a level never seen before. People are suffering. People are hungry. People are angry all over the country. But yet, some group of people within their cocoon think Nigeria is okay. That's why you had, if you remember when they had their neck meeting in the APC, they told them insecurity is now down, Nigeria is better, and all of those rubbish they said. And they're sure of winning 2027 election. You can see that. So the only thing, as I said before, is that can stop this particular government of deception, of corruption, this government of God knows of corruption, is the people. You and I, Nigerians, always sensitizing other people, making sure they be part of the conversation, and making sure that they make up their minds early and quickly. And obviously, get through to those people they normally use to read these elections. They know themselves. There's no way the state governors or the federal government can rig election all by themselves. They need different apparatus to do it. They need the electoral body INEC. They need the judiciary. Obviously, the judiciary has been the one electing or selecting our president and our governors for a while now. And they need people at the lower level to help them write those results and transmit those results into the electoral portal. And that's where we come in. That's where we start to talk about. That's where we start to sensitize our kids now who are in secondary school and university. Those people who will be the ones to, conduct and help conduct these elections. And that's why we need to get through to our professors, our professors who are going to be writing this result on behalf of the politicians. That's where we need to get. Listen, I've said this before, I'm going to say this again. That idea that we will be waiting for our legislators to amend our constitution so that we have proper electoral practices is not going to happen under this particular 10th assembly. So let's just kill that idea. They need that corruption to be in place for them to be in power. And as long as they want to remain in power, that's not going to change. So jettison that. That idea that our judiciary needs to be changed and have some freedom, it's not going to happen under this current judiciary system that we have. They're already compromised, they're already corrupt. They need that compromisation and the corruption to be in place. They don't need, for right now, you understand that they've gone past their judicial independence. Take the case of Booker Chua, his confession on the Senate floor. They've gone past that level. They're already in bed with the politicians. And as a matter of fact, they themselves have become politicians. So the only thing that will stop this foolishness of corruption is we the people making sure we galvanize behind one candidate and then we move forward with that candidate. Defy all the odds. Defy all the postulations about who's going to win because a lot of people are defecting to them. And get out to get the votes count. And make sure that we defend our votes. That's the only way. That's the only way we will get people with the right mindset. At what point in time, how old is Bola Tinubu right now? It looks frail. The stress of the government, the stress of governing Nigeria. Also, Nigeria's got 36 states, so hundreds of and thousands of local government with security issues, economic issues, financial issues, monetary issues. Every single thing this current government has not been able to fix. How do you think that, even at this particular time when he feels and you see him looking frail, he's not been able to fix it? Do you think he'll be able to do that 2 years after now and then now say for another 4 years? He can't. I said this in my previous video. Every country, people of that age bracket, I'm not an ageist, I'm just saying it. Every single country, especially African countries where people like that, look at Cameroon, for example, they've never moved the country forward because they don't have the stamina. They can't really think it that way to say they're thinking forward to make sure that they can think the country forward and come up with new ideas. They are not as sagacious as they used to be before. They're not. So give Bola Tinubu whatever fly you want to give him if you're an APC supporter or Bola Tinubu supporter. Fine, well and good. But the discussion here is that does he have the strength to carry Nigeria? Like Hakeem here says, we need to rile up as the people to come up and fight up against the political elite. There are only about 3,000 of them. And at every given election cycle, there's only about 3,000 of them, more or less plus or minus their aides and their advisors. but we're 230 million Nigerians held ransom by a group of 2,000 to 3,000 people. And then we want to demand the kind of change that we want, they use the police to suppress us. And the only way we can fight against it during the election period, we make sure we come out, but make sure you go get your PVC, make sure you get yourself prepared and ready to vote. I've said this several times. 2027 is the fight for the soul of Nigeria. You have to be part of it, because if you're not, you will suffer for another 4 years. And guess what? If Bola Tinubu has not spoken about the people that have been killed in different parts of Nigeria, he won't care about you 4 years later from now. Again, if you're meeting this content for the first time, please like, share, and subscribe. If you've been following us and you've not subscribed, please do so. And don't forget to recommend this channel to others. As always, I'll catch you up in the next video. God bless you. Bye-bye for now.